So welcome everyone. This is session 6 of our mentoring month, and today we're talking about values. So values are really important, and they're kind of our core of who we are. So let's just click through here. Sorry, my mouse has gone quiet on me. So these are my details. So if you want to talk to me and catch up with me and say hi, then please catch up with me. And we need to acknowledge the lands we come from at the moment. So right now, I'm coming to you from Warpay Tribe lands out here in Ipswich, which is right next door to Meanjin, which is Brisbane, and Turrbal and Yugara land. We all come from different lands, so it would be, so if you, when you do speak today and you speak, could you just remind us which lands you're from? QUT has always been on education lands with Aboriginal people, and we're very lucky that we still are. So we like to acknowledge our elders past, present and emerging. Housekeeping, great. If we can mute to reduce our background noise, that's great. But we're a small group today, so that's never going to be a problem, I don't think. This is our disclaimers and our copyrights. All Pepper material is free. We're fully funded by the federal government to create education materials to support health workforce to do what they do, and to think on palliative care. So you're entitled to use our materials. We just ask that you reference us. And if you ever have any concerns and you want to know more information about how to do that, please contact us via the email and the phone number there. As always, when we come together and we take this moment to, educate ourselves and to think about, us as mentors, we presence in a way that is with an open mind, an open heart and an open will. So this is based on Otto Scharmer's theory of view theory, and it's all about how to be intuitive and in your moment as you, and always come forward with curiosity, compassion and courage, which is such an important part of living these days, is to have the courage to be. It's really important. As always, self-care and compassion is always held in these moments as well. And whenever we have conversations in this mentoring session, if there is something private that you do not want to share, that's fine. I edit it out. So, you won't see it. And then, the people who are watching later, they just get the bare bones approach. But this is why we're here today, everyone. Woo! We're here for values, and what are they? So here's a definition that the Cambridge Dictionary gave us. You can read that. It's interesting, I find. It's all about these principles. So these principles that are in us, they're core to us. They are, what some people call core values. So what are your core values? It's really important to understand what they are, because sometimes when we're applying for jobs and we're looking at workplaces we work in, the workplace will tell us their core values. So that's a really good indicator to know, do my core values align with the organisation's core values? Because that's important, because sometimes we might have a mismatch with our organisation if we're not values aligned in our workplace too. So it's really important to know what your values are. So at times, just to give you a heads up, people confuse values and goals. So they get a little bit confused. So I just want to watch a short clip. It's 3 minutes long, and I hope you don't mind, but just this is just a difference between what are goals, and if I live a goal-driven life, what that impact it can have on me, versus a values-driven life. So if I have a values-driven life, what would my life look like? So here's hopefully...
Society tells us the way to be happy is to achieve our goals. Get that great job, earn that money, get a good body, find a partner, have happy, healthy kids, have a big house, have a nice car, have holidays. goal, 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 goal. And it's true that if you do actually manage to achieve these goals, then there is a little moment of joy and happiness. But how long does it last? How long before you're looking at the next goal, and then the next goal, and then the next goal? And as we live our life trying to constantly strive to achieve these goals, one after the other, how tiring and exhausting does it get? Is this you? There is a radically different way to live your life, which is a life based on values, a values-focused life. It's like two kids in the back of a car, and it's a 3-hour car journey to Disneyland. And the first kid is totally goal-focused. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? How much longer? Are we there yet? This journey of frustration, it's all about the goal. The second kid is values-focused. He's got the same goal. He wants to get to Disneyland, but he's also in touch with his values around curiosity, adventure, having fun. So he's looking out of the window, playing I Spy with My Little Eye. He's counting all the, the interesting farmhouses that he sees on the way. He's spotting interesting farm animals, cows and sheep. He's noticing different types of trucks and cars on the freeway. So he's actually appreciating the journey as he heads towards his goal. Now, they both reach Disneyland at the same time. They both have a fantastic time at Disneyland because they both got to achieve the goal. But the first kid had a journey of frustration. The second kid had a fulfilling, rewarding journey. Then on the way home, the first kid, are we home yet? Are we home yet? Are we home yet? All about the goal, all that frustration. Second kid's looking out of the window, noticing how the world looks different at night, spotting the lights in the farmhouses and the cat's eyes on the freeway. The car breaks down on the way to Disneyland. Now, both kids are really disappointed because neither of them achieved their goal. But the second kid at least had a fulfilling journey up until that point. Now, when the pickup truck arrives to tow them home, the first kid, oh, it's not fair. I want to go to Disneyland. How long before the car gets repaired? It's not fair. It's not fair. The second kid starts to notice how the world looks different when you're sitting in the front of a pickup truck high above the level of the rest of the traffic. So this is the very important distinction between the values-focused life and the goal-focused life. In the values-focused life, we have the fulfillment and satisfaction of living our values every step of the way towards our goals, the satisfaction of achieving our goals, and the fulfillment that comes of living our values even when we don't achieve our goals.
So basically what that was trying to exhibit for us today was that, that concept of those, if a goal-driven life it's tiring because we've always got another goal, because goals finish. Whereas values are with us all the time. They are our principles. They're the things that form us. And they're the things that we can lean on when time is tough. We can know, yep, that value is going to hold strong to me. They're enduring, I think, is the really important point with values. They're always there. And often, though, the problem is we're not really aware of our values. And it kind of leaves us a bit blind to who we are. We're not honouring ourselves if we're not aware of them. So this is what we want to touch on today, is this concept of, well, why are values so important? So here we go. Let's have a look at this for a moment. So why are values so important? And here we go. This is what we know. We know that they're important because they help us to grow and develop. Yeah, they really do. Because growing and developing is sometimes hard. And so if we keep aligning with our values on the process, the journey is sometimes, our moral compass is a lot more in the right direction for us, and it fits us. So they help us create our futures, and you know, the experiences the way we want them. The and you can read this. So intuitively, we feel calm when we align to our values. And I think that's that whole notion of when we sometimes are comfortable and we're thriving and we're just moving through our lives with those ideas of honesty. And, you know, if we value honesty and trust and those points really highly, if we're working in environments where, you know, those are shared values, where honesty and trust and hard work ethic are all shared and we're all working to the same, we trust that in each other, you know, and then we have greater alignment with each other as well in an organisation. So these are 4 areas where values insight is really critical. So this is in our everyday worlds where a value is really important. So today, we're focused on those individual values there. So those things that reflect how we show up in our lives and our specific needs and principles that we live by. Yeah. And they're inclusive of enthusiasm, creativity, humility, personal fulfillment. They're quite broad. And if you've done that personal values assessment before you're sitting here listening to this learning today, you will have insight into some of those titles of values that are really important to you because you've chosen 10 to do your values analysis. The other place that values insight is critical is in relationships, okay? Because each of us is walking around with our principles and our values embedded in us. So we've grown into them. You know, they were nurtured when we were little, and then we grew into them. And as we developed ourselves and we moved out of our childhood life and we became socialized humans at that sort of young teenage part of our lives, we started realizing there was values that we aligned with more than others. Okay, so we started having a shift in our values. And so that is about relationships too. So this is about how we relate to other people in your life. So friends, family, colleagues, your organisation. So it's about our openness, trust, generosity and caring. So for example, for me, I know my values from when I was younger have changed a bit to be more service driven and more focused on, you know, really being, if I want to make a difference. So that's where I sit often. And, you know, and I was just looking at mine there, looking at, you know, my core ones are always around finding meaning in existence. And that's what gets me out of bed every day, really. Okay. And it allows me to create material like this so that I could share this learning with other people to dive in and experience it as well. So these relationship values are so vital because if we're in relationships where we have malalignment, they're not going to be successful relationships. Okay? Yeah, and so, you know, I know as a professional healthness coach and life coach for people sometimes, this is a big thing that I find is that people come because they're in quite a bit of turmoil about a situation that they want to make change in. And sometimes, yeah, we have to go back to those beginning points and we have to look at values and we have to, so, you know, tell me more about what you know about yourself and what you want. What do you want? And so we sit there and we figure that out. And then often when we sit down and figure out what someone wants, it doesn't align with what the other people in their life wants. So that's where we get this uncomfortable feeling. Have you ever experienced that? Where you've had that uncomfortable because you know there's a values aren't aligning?
I think I always clash with that, but I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
So many Yeah, because I've been in working situation so many years. Maybe it seems that I kind of goal focusing, but actually I'm more value inside, but I didn't realize that. So I think the clash somehow is because I got value to back up my goal and different from other people. And so that is always clashes. Yeah.
Thank you, Aurea, for saying that. Like, I thought I was goal driven, but I've realized now I'm more value driven. Congratulations. That is such a win to discover that about yourself. So organizational values are another point. And if we sometimes work with organizations that are quite, that are falling apart, we really see that shine where the organization doesn't know its true value. It doesn't know its core values. It's flying by the seat of its pants. It has no rules. And so therefore the staff are lost. They just don't feel valued. It's just a chaotic mess. And so that's when organizational values really, and we have to support organizations to really look into themselves, to go, who are you? What are you doing? You know, and that's really important with organizations. The other thing, societal values. And so once again, how do your values relate to society? You know, what, you know, in regards to a few topic points, so future generations, environmental awareness, ecology, sustainability. So what we're noticing in society, and if you know, study sociology these days, is we're starting to see the younger generation have stronger core values around ecology and sustainability. They're actually a lot more focused on that than, you know, the later generations. So I find that fascinating because, and when I'm working with younger people, I have to be mindful of that and you know, and be inclusive more. I have to increase my values awareness around those points because to me, they're not my strong values, right? So I have to go out of my way as a leader to increase that so that I can value, you know, I can take that on board because they are quite good values. They just haven't featured highly in my life because I haven't needed them to. Okay. So that's the thing about values is once we have awareness of what our core values are, we can start appreciating and valuing the values in someone else. Because people who value, you know, sustainability and ecology and those things, that's just as important. It's just that it's not mine, but it's equally as important. So that's where, you know, I have to adapt and I have to, you know, take those things on board if they're the people I'm trying to work with and I'm trying to understand, you know. Does that make sense? Ori? Yeah. Great. Next slide is about why do we need to have values awareness as mentors? So if you're watching this at home and in your own space, I would like you to just jot down a few reflective points at home today and just go, why, if I'm a mentor and I'm presenting myself in front of someone else as a support person and, you know, someone who wants to grow someone, why is it so important I understand my values and I have knowledge of the importance of values in humans? Okay, so I'd like you to just jot down some points. Because what is important here at this point is values, understanding our values helps us better understand ourselves and why we may act or react the way we do. So if I understand my values as a mentor and as a leader, and I know what can, you know, what doesn't align with me will sometimes make me uncomfortable. When I'm uncomfortable, I react because that's human nature. That's what we do. or when I'm uncomfortable, I disengage. Okay. So if that happens, I can predict that. Okay. So for instance, I'll give you an example. So as who I am and my strong values all sit around, finding meaning and making a difference in life. Okay, that's where my core, I'm really strong in those features. Okay. So if someone comes to me and, wants to do mindless, busy work and, they're very driven on that whole point of, these physical things have to be met, these physical basic things. That's not my focus. Then that's not my values. So I have a high risk of disengaging with people if they want to be that high focus driven on stuff I don't value strongly. So I'll disengage and go, hey, I'm just not interested in that. But the thing is, if I'm a leader of an organization, I actually do have to be interested in that moment. So that's why it's good to know your values. Okay. So if people are looking at us for leaders and support and motivation, then we really need to know what our values are. So, which brings us to the next point. Because if you're watching this at home in your own time, I'm hoping that you did your personal value report before you came. I know I've got Aurea with me today, working with me today in this session, and I know that she has done hers. But let's just review first of all what this report is. Okay, so this personal values assessment teaches, and you can see here from this that I've done mine, because look, I've even given you my front sheet, the personal value assessment of Sue. So I've given you mine. And what is sitting in it is these 7 key points. And these 7 key points have been, they've been researched and validated, and this is a really highly validated tool that was created, and it's influenced by so many features. It's influenced by Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's influenced by Ryan and Desi's theory of happiness. It's influenced by Martin Seligman and his theory of wellness and his positivity group. There's all aspects of this, and you can read more about all the contributing parts that build this in the reference link that I've left at the end of this PowerPoint today. I've built in all the references to kind of give you confidence that this is really a strong tool that is offering you insight into these 3 themes here. So here we've got these 7 features. So we're starting with viability. So relationships, performance, evolution, alignment, collaboration, contribution. So these 3 points here of 5, 6, and 7, they align with this idea of common good. This is us aligning with the common good of society, of life, of us. It is the common good. If you have got a lot of features here in evolution, you're sitting in the transformation space. So what that's really highlighting to you, and if you've got some, dot points that are featuring in here, it's showing you're on the move. You're this thing called courageously evolving, which is, congratulations, you are moving. You are changing your world. You're very mindful, and you're wanting to grow. You're on a growth journey in your life, and I applaud you. The bottom sections are more around self-interest. So what you're in this space, you're working on this ability here about you're ensuring your stability in life. You're building relationships, and you're working on this achieving excellence. So you're working towards competence. You're growing your self-esteem. You're in that evolution, and it's not and in this, if we've got younger people, they score highly in this area if they're really consciously starting to notice who they are and where they're from. Okay, that's where they feature on. Now, people who've been courageously evolving for some time and on a transformation journey are kind of more in these top categories here, where they're sort of cultivating communities, living purpose, they're developing their authenticity. So this is where, you know, in this, if we had 100 mentors and we did a bit of a reflective review of all of your outcomes, I could see that most of you are going to be sitting in this transformation common good phase. Okay, because what you're doing every day in your life is living your values. You're probably working in places where you are cultivating communities, you're in the palliative care workforce, you're in some healthcare workforce where you're working with people regularly. You're authentically aligning with what you want to do every day and you're living a purpose. So it's quite exciting that that's where you are. So I want to ask the question, having done this, because your values reflect what is important to you. They are the shorthand way of describing your motivations. And this personal values assessment is a wealth of information. So how did you go? I'm just going to mute myself for a moment. So if you're following along at home and you're doing this, how did you go? Were you surprised at these values results that you got back? You know, I must admit when I do this, probably about every 6 months, I do a values check-in these days. The reason I do that is because sometimes my job changes. And so when my job changes, my focus gets a little bit shifted. And yeah, some of my values just shift a little bit. And so I like to just check in to make sure that I'm still in alignment, that I'm still being my best self. So that's why I do it probably every 6 months. But looking at I think the important thing is when you look at these results, is you go, does this align with me? Yeah. So for me, when I've done it, yes, I spend a lot of time in service, selfless service. I'm very focused on making a positive difference in the world and finding meaning in existence. Okay, that's a big part of my life. I really, I'm on that transformation journey as well. It's really important that I keep evolving and keep growing. I'm very much focused on being a self-authored person, but I'm hopefully moving myself towards quite that transformational personality. Actually, that when you are picking those words, you have to be very focused that they're the words that identify with you most at the moment of how you're living your life.
Yeah.
So good on you for noticing that in yourself.
Yeah, and then now after you explain that, the scale, the whole thing, then I think, now I can see why, because you say to look at other people also, of course. And this is why now the whole picture complete now. I understand why so many clashes.
Yes.
And
because that's the thing. If you're working in an environment where you're very focused on you're very focused on the work of the common good and getting positive outcomes and, getting the greatest good for the greatest number, but you're working in an environment where there are a lot of people who are self-interested. They're not evolving. They're staying down in the very they're very insular and they're very into themselves. It is very hard to find that alignment and understand that, okay, these people are just as important as anybody else. They just haven't started on the journey yet. So, all right, how can because when you're in the common good, you've been in these other areas. You just have to connect back into that and you have to go, okay, how can I work with these people and identify how to relate to them? Need awareness too. Yes.
Yeah.
So no, I totally agree.
That's why I say it's very interesting now.
Yeah, because as much as you're being intuitive and understanding values and growing yourself, at the same time, you have to support people to go on the journey. And so these people would actually learn really well if they could have insight into themselves and see where they're sitting. Yes, it's a world we can. It's a world we can all go to. But I guess that's the thing, though, isn't it? It's not in other people's strong value sense to want to transform yet.
Yeah.
They haven't felt the need to go on the journey yet. Yeah. And we have to accept that. We have to go, I get it. You'll get there. Yeah. And sometimes it's good to remind ourselves that not everybody wants to be on the journey.
Yeah. And just like I can see two worlds so different, but they can only see their own world. So it is hard to tell them the other world, what would that be, and how different it can be to make your life change. So this is the way.
Oh, fabulous. Oh, well, good. I'm glad that you're realizing that there is different journeys, different parts that people are on. I'm really, you're seeing it, and I'm loving that you're seeing it. So basically, if you were following along at home there, the key points that I would have really liked you to pause the story on there and reflect on is there any areas in the value chart that you don't have any focus? So for instance, for me, I have no dots at all featuring in satisfying our physical and survival needs. So I do not value anything in there at all. And so that's what I'm saying. That's something where that might actually be a gap in my awareness. So is there something that I need to think more about in that point, and or is it something in my future development I might focus towards? So this is the thing, these dots can actually give you guidance and can give you, some thinking about, maybe I should spend a little bit more time on that. Maybe I should develop some awareness. So, and you can do that by being part of society. But it's just about whether you're willing to at this time. Okay? And if you do have some empty areas in there, why? Is it because, for instance, if you don't have a feeling and sense of self-worth, that's another area I don't have anything in there. So is that because I have a strong sense of self and my self-worth is pretty strong, so therefore I don't even think about it? Or is it because I don't think enough about myself? I'm putting the greater good and everything ahead of me, and I'm in service to everyone so much that I'm not spending enough time on myself. Here we go. So maybe this is something that's a good indicator for me to go, maybe I do need to do a little bit more self-care and self-compassion and work on self a bit more. Just food for thought. That's what this is all about today. So it's looking at your values and going, hey, what can I do with this? What is this teaching me? What is my inner core principles teaching me about me right now? Okay. So how do these values influence your life? So basically, these words are all around how we manage our needs is a lifelong process. So we will keep changing and we'll keep flowing. And, even when we've learned and we become self-authored, and as we keep evolving and transforming as adults, aligning with adult development theory of Robert Kegan, for instance, we do find situations consistently arising where we still will go back to our fear-based beliefs. So I'm not good enough. I'm scared. I'm threatened. I'm those things. Those things will still always come up because we're human and we have, our frontal cortex that has emotion. Okay. But what we know, and if we're really strong and we understand our values, we can still have those moments of anxiety. We can still have those moments of, doubting our self-worth and our capacity to be. But if we understand who we are and who our values are, we can actually pull on those values and lift ourselves forward so that we won't remain dwelling on our fear or our threats or our, you know, our negative self-speak. So if we're really strong in our values and we understand who we are, we can actually move ourselves on. And so this pictogram here is sort of this core thing saying values are always at the core. So a person's own set of principles, as we've discussed, which they consider they're the greatest of importance. They're the most important thing that we have. And then from our values become our beliefs, and an idea that it is accepted as true, and sometimes without any facts. Sometimes we don't have a lot of facts for some of our beliefs. They're just something that they kind of touch on our values and they feel comfy, so they become our beliefs. Okay. They're not true often, and sometimes people, where we find ourselves in conflict is people will debunk some of our beliefs, and then we'll get a little bit anxious and we'll get a bit threatened. Okay, so it's good to know that in yourself and know when will I feel threat and why. From that comes our attitude. So a way of thinking or feeling with regards to someone or something. So, you know, and that's really important to think about our attitudes. So when you're on a transformational journey and you're learning about your core values, that's why it's so important to look into them and go, where are my core values sitting? Am I sitting in that transformation space, or am I not quite there yet? If I'm not quite there yet, then what can I do to evolve to that space where I have reduced self-interest and I have reduced, you know, worries about my self-worth, and I have more safety and security and I feel more solid in myself. And then as soon as that starts happening and I start seeing the shift, I see my beliefs to become stronger and not so fear-based and not so negative. So I will sit with more positive belief systems, which then impacts my attitude. So then I have greater positive attitude attached to there as well. So this is exciting because I just hope, I don't know, I get excited by it because it's the power of a value, the core values of life. And I love that. Does that make sense? Can I just check in with you, Aurea, right now? Does that make sense what I've just said there? Can I clarify it any better?
Yeah, it really explained a lot. Yeah, to when you talk about the transformation level and also somewhere blank.
Yes.
I got a blank.
Yeah.
Yeah, and exactly what you mentioned is the self-esteem, that section, the sense of self-worth is
Yes.
blank.
Yes.
Yeah, at the very first beginning, I look at it, I don't understand what is blank. Yeah, now it really, everything makes sense.
Yeah.
I understand myself a lot more and more. What shall I say? I understand myself very well, I thought, but not in a systematical way to put it into this kind of categories and so. Yeah. And this is the core value. Now I understand the core value. It's very good. Yeah.
Your sense of self, your you. Yes, exactly right. So, which brings us to really, we're getting to the end, to be honest. This is really important to just sit with for a minute and go, how will you use your understanding that you now have of your values to be you every day? So how do your values help you be you every day? So I know that understanding my values helps me to sometimes predict my reactions to how I'm going to react to something, because I can tell when I'm just not interested or that person's just in opposition to my values. I can pretty much, I know I have to notice that, and then I sit quietly with it and I breathe and I give that person a moment. I don't discard them. I don't throw them away. I don't just go, no, I'm not interested. I stop and I go, okay, going to listen to this now, and I'm going to have to pay a bit more attention than I would normally because I know I'm not fully engaged. Okay, so that's me personally, but you know, you might be different. It has understanding values has really helped me work with others and be really patient with other people who don't share my values. And I make more effort to support people who don't share my values. But what else? How else? I want you to sit and reflect for a moment and go, how else will knowing my values support me to be me every day? Another one that's just popped into my head, sorry, I've already interrupted, was I actually, through understanding values, have a lot more energy now because it doesn't exhaust me trying to, sometimes when people didn't share my value, I spent so much time trying to get them on my side. Okay, I was like, come on, you've got to get this. You've got to understand why this is so important. Come with me, it's got to happen. And I would put so much energy into getting them aligning with me. But now I just know that that's actually not possible. And I'm expending 10 tons of energy where it is just not required. It's not going to work. And I'm banging my head against the proverbial brick wall. Okay, stop it. Breathe. And go, I wonder how this person's values works. And I wonder if I worked with them differently, I wonder if I could get more out of the situation. There's another thought. So this is perfect. So a value is valuable when the value of value is valuable to oneself. So it's so important that you value yourself. So please do. If you're watching this, you obviously do because you're here and you're learning and you're, you know, trying to grow yourself. And, you know, I applaud you. I think that that is awesome. If you'd like to know more, there's some great links here. These are some other things that I like to do with people sometimes. It's a value cards exercise to clarify values. So if you're working in an organisation and you would like people to, you would like to see what people's values are to sort of just learn them differently, it's a little bit of a game you can play. It's something you can do in team bonding and, you know, if you're doing teamwork exercises. And values are verbs. And that's another really, just another way of looking at how we should be thinking about values as well. So that's another great link there as well. And once again, though, if you want to know more about mentoring or more about palliative care education, that website's chock-a-block with stuff. So you can go have a look there. And don't forget, you can watch this back and go through all of our other monthly learning sessions that we've done in mentoring through the learning management system as well, and download our resources, share them out. If you have a group of people that you think would benefit from a mentoring session with me, I'm even willing to host a session with you, just like one of these 1 hour topic sessions. I'd happily meet up with you and your people online to try and onboard some resistant folks in your organisation if you want to. Because you're all in healthcare and it's really important we care about people in healthcare. So it's never been more important than it is now. So thank you for your time. If anybody's got any questions, feel free to stay back and have a chat. But otherwise, I'm going to leave you to your day. Have a great day.